There is a silent killer of attraction for men over 40. It's a fundamental mistake that almost every single man in this age group makes. And ironically, it's a mistake born not from failure, but from success. It's a rookie error that you've become more likely to make precisely because you are experienced, because you are stable, and because you have built a life worth sharing. You see those qualities as your greatest assets, the core of what you bring to the table. And from a woman's perspective, we see it too. We see it instantly. But not in the way you think. It's often the very first signal that tells us, on a subconscious level, that the connection is going nowhere, even when everything else about you seems perfect. This isn't about lacking confidence, not having enough money, or not being a good guy. In fact, it often affects the kindest and most successful men the most. The issue is a psychological blind spot, a gap in understanding between generations that has quietly widened, creating a critical misinterpretation of what sparks desire in a woman today. You're following an obsolete playbook, and the most frustrating part is, you're doing it with the best intentions, believing you're showing strength when you're triggering her filter for friendship, not passion. To fix it, you first have to see it clearly, and the most dangerous mistakes are the ones you don't even know you're making. Stay with me because what I'm about to reveal is the key to finally closing that gap. By the end of this video, you are going to see the world of attraction through a completely different lens. You will understand precisely why your attempts to demonstrate your value, your career, your stability, your intellectual conversation, are not only failing to create desire but are actively working against you. I'm going to give you the female perspective on this, revealing the internal emotional response that a woman has when a man leads with his resume instead of his presence. You will finally grasp the critical difference between being evaluated as a logical, long-term partner and being experienced as an exciting, desirable man in the present moment. This isn't about changing who you are. It's about learning to lead with the part of you she needs to feel first, so she can then appreciate the rest. We are going to move from theory to action. This isn't just a diagnosis, it's the cure. I'll give you the exact communication shifts that take you out of the interviewer role and into the experience role. You'll learn how to create playful tension instead of logical debate, how to share an emotion instead of just a fact, and how to build a connection based on a shared feeling, not just a shared history. It's fascinating how universal this dynamic is, and I'm always curious to see where this message resonates. Just out of curiosity, drop your state or city in the comments below. It's powerful to see where we're all connecting from, because the solution I'm about to share with you will close that generational gap, allowing you to turn your greatest assets into a source of attraction, not invisibility. My perspective, as both a psychologist and a woman, is built on a simple but crucial foundation. In the world of human connection, a single data point is a lie. A gesture, a sentence, a smile, taken in isolation, they are meaningless. They are easily faked, easily misinterpreted, and often accidental. The truth is never in the isolated event. It's in the pattern. It's in the consistency of behavior over time, the context of the situation, and the emotional coherence between what someone says and what their energy projects. Most men, especially those conditioned for success in a logical world, are trained to collect facts. They collect evidence of interest. But attraction isn't a case you build, it's a current you feel. Learning to read attraction is about stepping back from the individual puzzle pieces and finally seeing the entire picture they form. This requires a shift from analytical intelligence to social and emotional intelligence. It's the ability to read the space between words, to notice the subtle shift in her posture when you change the topic, or to understand the difference between a polite smile and a genuine, unguarded one. It's about timing. Why did she bring that up now? It's about contradiction. She says she's not looking for anything serious, but her actions suggest a deep desire for connection. A logical man sees this as confusing noise. An emotionally attuned man sees it as the most important signal she's sending. He understands that her true feelings are often revealed in these exact moments of inconsistency because they expose the gap between her conscious mind and her subconscious desires. That is where I come in. My purpose here isn't to give you a list of rules or a set of lines to memorize. It's to act as your translator. I'm here to decode the emotional language that you've been observing but perhaps not fully understanding. Many of the signals women send are not conscious tests, but rather subconscious probes for emotional safety and attunement. We are, on a primal level, checking to see if you can hear the music behind our words. When a man demonstrates that he can read these subtle, nonverbal cues, he is signaling a high level of social intelligence and empathy. This is profoundly attractive because it tells a woman on a gut level that she will be seen and understood by him. This is the foundation we need to feel safe enough to let desire emerge. So let's pull back the curtain on the fundamental mistake. The root of this entire issue is that you are leading with your resume. You've spent decades building a life of substance, and so you logically assume that the best way to attract a woman is to present that substance as evidence of your worth. Your conversation becomes a strategic presentation of your career, your accomplishments, your intellectual capacity, and your stability. You are, in essence, trying to win a logical argument for why you are a great choice. But attraction is not a debate, and desire is not a conclusion reached through logical deduction. The moment you start presenting your case, you put her in the position of a judge or a hiring manager, forcing her into an analytical, critical frame of mind. This is the very opposite of the open, emotional, and receptive state required for a spark to ignite. This resume approach most commonly manifests in what I call the interviewer frame. Your conversations are likely filled with a sequence of data-gathering questions. What do you do for work? Where did you grow up? How many siblings do you have? On the surface, these seem like normal get-to-know-you questions. But from her perspective, they often feel like a checklist. Each question is a separate, sterile request for information that does little to build an actual emotional connection. It communicates that you are in your head, logically evaluating her qualifications, rather than being present in the moment, enjoying the experience of her company. It can even feel lazy, as if you're following a generic script instead of engaging with the unique, living person in front of you. This isn't building rapport, it's conducting an audit. Now, let's talk about the first major shift to dismantle this frame. The antidote to being an interviewer is to replace questions with playful assumptions. Instead of asking, "What do you do?" which puts the burden on her to deliver an impressive or interesting answer, you observe her and offer a playful guess. For example, you could lean in with a slight smile and say, "Okay, let me guess. You have the calm, focused demeanor of a brilliant architect. But there's a certain look in your eyes that tells me you'd rather be backpacking through Southeast Asia with no itinerary." The magic here is that it doesn't matter if you are right or wrong. You have just transformed a boring data exchange into a fun, engaging game. You've demonstrated that you are paying attention to her energy, not just her answers, and you've created a moment of shared playfulness. The reason this works so well psychologically is that a question demands a correct answer, which creates a subtle pressure to perform. But a playful assumption invites collaboration. It communicates that you are not afraid to be wrong, which is a powerful signal of confidence and a lack of ego investment in being right. It shows that your priority is creating a fun, enjoyable interaction, not simply gathering facts to determine her worthiness. You are moving the conversation from the logical brain, the prefrontal cortex, which analyzes data, to the emotional brain, the limbic system, which feels connection and excitement. This is the foundational first step in shifting from a conversation about life to a conversation that feels alive, and this shift is critical if you want to be seen as more than just a provider of information. As we go deeper, we find a more subtle yet equally destructive habit of the logical man: the compulsion to correct factual inaccuracies. Imagine she's telling a story and says a particular movie came out in 2018. You, having a good memory for details, know it was actually 2017. Your logical brain screams for precision, and you feel an almost irresistible urge to gently correct her with a, "Well, actually." To you, this feels helpful and demonstrates your knowledge. To her, it feels like a red pen striking through her words. It instantly breaks the emotional flow of her story, creates an uncomfortable teacher-student dynamic, and makes you appear rigid and pedantic. You may have won the factual point, but you have definitively lost the emotional connection. The more attractive, vibe-driven approach here is to embrace the spirit of what she's saying, not the letter. Instead of correcting her, You build on the world she's creating. This is the art of yes and. A principle from improvisational theater where you accept what your partner offers and add to it. If she says the sky looks purple tonight, you don't argue with meteorology. You smile and say, "You're right, it does. It must be one of those nights where the world decided to be a little more interesting." By validating her reality and adding a touch of imagination, you are communicating that you value the shared experience far more than you value being factually correct. You are signaling that you are a partner in connection, not a competitor in a game of trivia. This flexibility is immensely attractive. This leads us to an even more advanced distinction: the difference between sharing a story and sharing an emotion. Many successful men believe their stories are their currency. They recount tales of closing a big deal, navigating a difficult negotiation, or some other impressive accomplishment. The story is presented as a trophy to be admired. But a story that is just a sequence of events, this happened, then this happened narrative, often lands with a thud. It positions her as a passive audience to your one-man show, creating distance. She might be intellectually impressed, but she is not emotionally engaged. She is watching your life from the outside instead of feeling invited to be a part of it. The solution is to stop telling stories and start sharing emotions. The events of the story are just the vehicle. The feeling is the destination you want to take her to. So instead of detailing the complex logistics of a project you managed in a foreign country, you anchor the experience in a universal feeling. You might say, "Have you ever had that feeling of being completely anonymous in a giant city, where instead of feeling lonely, you feel this incredible sense of freedom? I had a moment just like that watching the sunrise in Tokyo." Instantly, the story is no longer just about you. It's about a feeling she can recognize and connect with. You've given her an emotional entry point, inviting her to share her own experience of that same feeling. All these logical tendencies, the interviewing, the correcting, the resume reciting, feed into one overarching fatal flaw. They make you predictable. And predictability is the silent enemy of desire. When a woman can accurately guess what you're going to say or ask next, the interaction loses all its tension and intrigue. Her brain, wired to seek novelty and excitement, begins to tune out. Attraction is not a feeling that flourishes on a predetermined, logical path. It thrives in the spaces of spontaneity, mystery, and gentle surprise. When your conversational style feels like a flowchart, you are signaling safety and stability, yes, but you are completely failing to signal the adventure and excitement that are foundational to romantic chemistry. A powerful way to break this predictability is by intentionally creating what are known as emotional open loops. Instead of closing every conversational thread with a neat conclusion, you purposefully leave some unfinished to create curiosity. For instance, in the middle of a conversation, you might laugh quietly to yourself. When she asks what's funny, you can smile and say, "Oh, it just reminded me of the single most embarrassing thing that happened to me in my 20s. But trust me, it's a story for another time." In that one moment, you have completely flipped the dynamic. You are no longer pushing information onto her. You have created a vacuum of intrigue that makes her want to pull information from you. She is now invested in learning more, a far more powerful position for you to be in. Now we arrive at the most crucial mistake for men in this specific demographic: the misuse of stability as a tool of seduction. You've worked hard to build a secure life, a great career, a home, financial stability, and you believe these are your primary assets of attraction. So you bring them up. You talk about your demanding job, your mortgage, your responsibilities. While these are unquestionably important for building a long-term relationship, they are often counterproductive in the initial stages of creating attraction. Mentioning these things activates her analytical, provider-vetting brain. You're inadvertently asking her to evaluate your financial statements and life plan on a first date, a process that is inherently non-emotional and kills the nascent spark of desire. The key is not to hide your success, but to reframe it entirely. Stop talking about what your success has cost you in terms of responsibility and stress, and start talking about the freedom it provides you. There's a world of difference between "my job is incredibly demanding, I manage a team of 50, and "one of the best things about my work is that it's given me the freedom to be spontaneous. If I wake up on a Saturday and want to drive to the mountains to see the sunrise, I can just go." The first statement is a burden. The second is an adventure. You are framing your stability not as a list of responsibilities, but as a launchpad for the exact kind of exciting, vibe-driven life she would want to be a part of. Finally, we come to the ultimate masterclass in vibe over logic, the use of silence. For the man stuck in a logical frame, silence is terrifying. He perceives it as a conversational failure, a void that must be immediately filled with another question, another fact, another story. This desperate urge to fill the space screams anxiety and neediness. It tells her you are uncomfortable in your own skin and are seeking her validation to feel okay. The emotionally attuned man, however, understands that a moment of shared, comfortable silence can be more powerful than 1,000 words. He is able to hold her gaze for an extra beat, offer a small, confident smile, and simply let the moment exist. This is the ultimate demonstration of confidence. It non-verbally communicates, I am completely at ease with myself and with you. That comfort creates a space where real, unspoken attraction can finally surface and breathe. Let's bring this to life with a few concrete scenes. Imagine you're on a first date. The logical man, leading with his resume, turns the conversation into a qualification process. He asks, "So you're a graphic designer? That's fascinating. What's the biggest project you've ever managed?" His posture is forward, his eyes are intense, and he's mentally taking notes. From a woman's perspective, this doesn't feel like connection. It feels like an evaluation. A subtle tension builds, but it's the tension of a job interview, not romantic chemistry. Now contrast this with the vibe-driven man. He might say with a warm, playful smile, "A graphic designer? So you're the one making the world a more beautiful, less boring place." I have to confess, I'm still recovering from the trauma of using Microsoft Paint in the 90s. In one sentence, he's replaced interrogation with humor, shared vulnerability, and a shared emotional world. Here's another common scenario. She shares a story about a frustrating situation at work. The logical man immediately switches into fix-it mode. "Well, what you need to do is document everything and schedule a meeting with your manager. Have you considered?" He's trying to demonstrate value by providing a solution, but what she feels is invalidated. She wasn't seeking a consultant, she was seeking a connection. She was sharing an emotion, hoping he would meet her there. The man who understands vibe does exactly that. He listens, and instead of offering a plan, he validates the feeling. He might say, "Ugh, that sounds incredibly draining. There's nothing worse than feeling like your effort is invisible." He might even offer a light touch on her arm as he says it. He's not solving her problem, he's joining her inside of it. This creates a powerful sense of emotional safety and being truly seen. Finally, let's decode a classic contradictory signal. After a great date, she texts you, "I had a really nice time, but my life is so crazy right now, I'm probably not the best person to date." The logical man reads this literally. He interprets it as a polite rejection and replies, "I understand, it was great to meet you." The interaction is over. He has read the words but missed the music. The vibe-driven man understands that this statement is often a test. It's her way of asking, "Can you add fun to my life without adding pressure?" He responds to the unspoken feeling, not the literal words. He might text back something playful like, "Crazy is my specialty. I'm a professional chaos calmer. How about we de-stress over tacos on Tuesday? No pressure, just deliciousness." He acknowledges her reality but reframes the interaction as a source of relief, not another obligation. This response is confident, empathetic, and keeps the door wide open for attraction to grow. However, it is absolutely crucial to understand that these techniques are not a magic formula, and this is where the logical mind can fall into a new kind of trap. Just as you once misinterpreted polite conversation as genuine interest, you can now misinterpret any shared laugh or playful touch as a definitive sign of romantic desire. A woman's positive reaction to a vibe-driven moment is not a contract. It's simply an invitation to continue the dance. The biggest mistake you can make now is to revert to your analytical brain and start keeping score. She touched my arm, that's 5 points. She laughed at my joke, that's 10 points. The moment you do this, you have lost. You're no longer present in the experience. You are back in your head, running calculations. The goal is not to gather evidence of her attraction, but to create an environment where attraction becomes the most natural feeling in the world. This leads to the most important nuance of all. You must learn to read the room, not just the individual. A single signal, or even the lack of one, is meaningless without context and consistency. A moment of silence could be a sign of deep connection, or it could mean she's just trying to remember if she left the oven on. Her brief, distracted response to your text doesn't automatically mean she's lost interest. She could be in the middle of a chaotic workday. The emotionally intelligent man does not build an entire narrative, either of hope or of despair, around a single ambiguous event. He observes patterns. Is she consistently engaged or consistently distracted? Is her energy generally warm and receptive, or is it polite but distant? True confidence is not the ability to force a connection where there isn't one. It's the wisdom to recognize when one isn't there and the grace to walk away, without letting it diminish your own sense of self-worth. And so we arrive at the final, most profound truth, the one that sits beneath all the others. The reason the resume fails, the interview repels, and the logic falls flat is because of one devastating psychological reality. Attraction cannot be negotiated. It cannot be earned, argued for, or proven with evidence. Desire, in its purest form, is an involuntary emotional response. It is a feeling a woman discovers within herself, not a conclusion she arrives at based on your qualifications. Therefore, the single most unattractive thing a man can do is to try and prove his worthiness, because the very act of trying signals, on a subconscious level, that he doesn't fully believe in it himself. It puts her in the position of needing to validate him. True masculine power, the kind that ignites desire, is not demonstrated through a presentation of value. It is experienced through a man's unapologetic, comfortable presence in his own skin, a presence so grounded that it gives her the silent permission to feel safe, to open up, and to discover that spark for herself. So the shift is complete. You've moved from seeing attraction as a case to be proven to understanding it as an experience to be created. You now recognize that your true power doesn't live in your resume, but in your grounded, unapologetic presence. However, knowing the what and the why is only the first half of the equation. The moment you begin to operate with this new, vibe-driven energy, you will inevitably face a series of unspoken tests, subconscious probes from her to see if this confidence is authentic or just a fragile mask. Knowing how to navigate these moments is the critical difference between solidifying deep attraction and shattering the entire connection. That's why I've prepared the essential next step in the video on your screen now, called the 5 Unspoken Vibe Tests Women Use and How to Pass Them. It's the practical masterclass for applying this knowledge. Click it now and let's complete this transformation together.